Hello viewers, 4 DIYers here back with a tutorial video for everyone. Now in this particular video here I'll be doing a demonstration on how to remove the front fender on a BMW E39 body style. Now this particular vehicle I am working on here is a 1997 BMW 540i, and I am removing the passenger side fender here, as you can see. Now as for the different body styles available, I know you have the M5 cars as well as the M Tech cars. Now this is a pre-facelifted version, this car. The newer versions of this E39 were available with the an upgraded front bumper, and then you have the M Tech bumpers as well as you have the M5 versions as well. Now the M Tech and M5 should be fairly similar. There might be some slight differences here for removing the inner fender, so I'll just make note of that first if you are using this video as a reference. Now first what I want to start by doing here is we will be required to remove the front wheel here. So you want to have a jack handy for that, and you also want to have a jack stand as well, because we are working in the inside of the wheel well here. Now in order to remove the wheel here, you should have the 5 17mm lug studs, which need to be removed. And then I also add a little bit of painter's tape along there, because we are removing the front fender here, so you don't want to damage any existing paint on the vehicle itself. The first bit which we'll be starting to remove here is this larger inner fender portion here. Now the inner fender is made in two portions. There's one on the behind the bumper directly, and there's one that actually covers the whole underside of the fender here. And when I'm working on a little more here, I'll show you what I mean by that. Now the first little parts here we want to remove, they go all throughout here. You can see there's one that's been removed here. These are just little plastic retaining clips, and they do have a center which you can punch out here. Basically what I'm using for my pointer stick here is just a spray nozzle from a can of penetrating oil. You even get them with a can of brake cleaner and so on and so forth. And all you want to do here, just go on the center of the pin here, and sometimes they stick a little bit odd times. And what you can do is, as you can see, it's already pushed in, and you just push the tab out. And once you've done that, you can then go ahead and just pop that out. And those little inner tabs that go on the inside there, they'll just fall inside the fender. The fender does stick out a certain portion there, so they either fall in the fender for the higher ones, or the lower one here just falls in the inside of the rocker panel there, and they're easy to retrieve, and you can reuse them over again. Now as for the location of the bolts inside the inner fender here, I'll show you in a moment here. Basically what I used to use for this was a 3/8 drive ratchet on a 3-inch extension, and they're all 8mm bolts, or at least they should be, unless someone has changed them. Basically with the extension here, because of the curvature of the fender here, just provides a little more room to move the ratchet back and forth. Other than that, they're very accessible to get. So starting by the cabin side of the vehicle here, we'll have two on the bottom side here, one there, here. Moving up a little ways, we'll have one right in here. Next we'll have one over here, another one there. Going up to the top side here, another next one here. Front of the strut here, we'll have another one. Then moving along to the front portion of the vehicle here, we'll have another one right up here. We'll have one on the here. Then we'll have three along here, so we'll have 1, 2, and 3. And basically there was one there, but it wasn't there unfortunately when I got to it. So once you have those removed, you can then go ahead and pull the fender liner out. The fender liner is fairly easy to get out. What I found the easiest way to do was to drop it down the back side here, which unclips it from the top portion of the fender here. Once you do that, it's fairly easy to get out compared to other vehicles which I've done in the past. Now as you can see, this is the fender liner when it's out of the vehicle here. Now I didn't make note in the other part here when I was mentioning the bolts in the inside here, because I couldn't show it actually on the camera that well, and the lighting was fairly poor. So there is a bolt on the inside here, just on the bottom portion. Now that just goes directly to the belly pan of the vehicle. The vehicle does have a plastic protective belly pan on there, so you do have to remove that bolt as well. Again, it is the exact same as the rest of the bolts. It is also an 8mm. And just to give you a reference point here, this is where the strut is. This is towards the cabin side of the vehicle here, and this is the outer edge of the liner itself, where it goes directly onto the fender. So it's just on the inside there that does have to be removed. Now as for the rest of the locations here, besides this location, we do have the two right there. We have the other one right here. The next one right up by the strut. Then we're going towards the top portion of the liner here. So we have the one right there. Then where the strut location is here, we have one directly out from there. Next we'll have another one in here. And again we have the three here, 1, 2, and 3. And the last one we also have is here. Now going back here, again as I mentioned, I if I haven't mentioned that already. You shouldn't have to remove this portion here. Now it is clipped in on the bottom side if you do want to remove it, and it also does have 2 bolts on the bottom side here, which mine were actually missing. On the M Tech cars, or an M5 car, or even possibly the facelifted version of the E39, which does have a slightly different bumper on it, it may have some slight differences there, but there should be somewhat of a similarity in how this is bolted on as well. Now if you are using a video just to gain access to the washer assembly here, just simply for the tank and the 2 pumps here, now once you remove the inner fender liner, you gain direct access to those. Again, they are both located on the passenger side of the vehicle. Again, this is a left-hand drive vehicle, so it might be slightly different for the right-hand drive vehicles, I'm not sure, but if somebody would chime in on that and just post a comment below, that would be greatly appreciated. Now moving on, I will be showing you the locations in the inside of the fender here where to gain access to those bolts in order to remove them to take this fender off. Now there will be various ones in the inside here. Some of them you can gain access with a ratchet, others you need an extension for, and even depending on what side you are working on will vary on whether a ratchet or a wrench is used. The one in the front here will be required to use a wrench. The 2 closest to the door here will be required to use a ratchet. If you don't have the washer tank equipped right there, you can gain access to it with a ratchet. If you do, you need to use a wrench in there instead. And again, as I mentioned, they all are 10mm. Now first what we'll be starting with is the 2 bolts in here. You can see the ends of them, which do protrude to the inside of the door jamb there when you do have the door partly open. If you do put your hand inside, if you can't see in there, if you don't have a flashlight, you can just feel around and you can feel them both sticking out. Now in order to gain access to those, you must gain access through this side, and you will need what I found to use is a 3-inch and a 6-inch extension, so a total of 9 inches. And I was just using basically a shallow socket for those, and I was able to retrieve those 2 in there. I'll show you just the other angle as well. Now just showing you from the other angle here, you can see there's the one about midway on the fender there. This is where the marker light is shown here. Now simply in order to remove that bulb from the marker light, all I did was reach in behind there with my hand. I had enough room, and I just did a 1/4 turn counterclockwise and popped that out. So that's perfectly fine instead of removing the actual marker light from the fender itself. Then moving down lower, you can see there is also the other bolt as well. Now as I mentioned before, just simply use a 3-inch and a 6-inch extension to put together, make total 9 inches on a shallow socket, and you should be fine to access those. Now just moving towards the front of the vehicle slightly here between the rocker panel and the fender itself, we will have another bolt in here which does need to be removed. Now with the washer assembly being in here, I might be able to get into there with a swivel joint, but if all else fails, you can go ahead and use a wrench on there. Now moving towards the front of the vehicle here, still gaining access from inside the fender here. What we have here is the bumper portion on the bottom side here, and the top portion here is just simply the fender. This is right directly behind the headlight here. You will have another bolt as well. Now this one here, you can't actually gain access to it with a ratchet because there is some plastic in the way here. So basically what we'll be using here is just a standard wrench. Go ahead, open up the door itself, and you will have one 10mm right at the top here. Again, you can gain access with that with the 2 extensions put together, the 3-inch and the 6-inch, totaling 9 inches with a shallow socket, and you should be able to get access to that one. You do have to open the door all the way in order to get this one. Now once we finished up with the inner fender and the door jamb of the vehicle here, now just for a reference point here, here's the headlight assembly, and we're at the front of the vehicle now. Now you will have a series of 5 torque head bits which are required to use a T30 torque bit in order to remove these. We'll have 5 of them, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right up to the hood hinge there, and once we remove those we can then go ahead. Now there will be a rubber grommet at the top here which I'll show you a closer look at, and there will be a bolt under there as well. Now that is a bolt rather than a torque bit. Now moving along here, as you can see, we have the windshield here, and there's a window post, and we have the door here. This is at the top portion of the fender. We will have a bolt hidden behind this rubber portion here. And what we can do with this rubber portion here, they do fatigue over time. I do have replacements for this one. And basically what happens here is that you have to watch if you want to keep your existing ones that you don't actually crack it or rip it. They are somewhat stuck in there if they have been in there for a while, but you can start with the back side here and slowly work it out, and then just simply pull it straight back and up, and then you'll gain access to that one right there, and that is a 10mm. This is the hinge assembly on the hood itself. Now we do need to remove the front bolt here and loosen up this last bolt. Now it's probably a good idea to have somebody on hand in order to hold the hood into place just in case something does happen to get away on you and that can cause damage. So just to make note of that. Now this may vary between left-hand drive and right-hand drive vehicles as to where this ground wire is located here. This is on the passenger side on my vehicle, and again, as I mentioned before, it is left-hand drive. We will have a 10mm holding that on the top side there. Now you want to make sure you do hold the wire and it doesn't twist when you're loosening off that nut, and the same goes when you're reinstalling this and do tighten it up. You want to make sure that doesn't twist because you can damage the wire inside there. Next, what we'll have here is two 13mm bolts here. The last one, as I mentioned a second ago, it just needs to be loosened up because there's an elongated hole here, and I will show you once that's off what it looks like. The front one does need to be removed fully in order to remove the fender. So once the fender is off, just a recap of where all the holes are located. We'll have the 5 torque bits along the top side here. Then going along to the hinge side here, as you can see that elongated hole as I was talking about here. This hole doesn't really serve any purpose for any bolts. This one here does serve the purpose for that ground clamp, or on the opposite side, it's a bolt that just goes through there and it does need to be fully removed. As for the one for the elongated hole, I roughly removed that, I would say about a ½ inch, or talking in the metric system, which would be around 12mm. And then going on to the back side here, we'll have that one where the rubber gasket was. Now going on to this side here, again, we'll have the one we access from the door jamb. Then we'll have the two on the bottom side here, which we do access from the inside of the fender. And again, on the inside of the fender here, going to the rocker, we'll have this one as well. And moving to the opposite side towards the front of the vehicle where the headlight is located up in this portion here, we'll also have the one in here. Now moving back to the vehicle here, again, where all the locations are, we'll have the one on the inside here. We'll have the ones along the top side here. And we'll go to the hinge portion right here. Again, with the hinge portion, the front one does need to be removed. The back one does not. The back one needs to be removed at roughly about a ½ inch, or 12mm. We have the one at the top side above the gasket here. We have the one up at the top side here, which can be accessed when you do open the door. Again, the two on the bottom side. Now when you are removing the fender, as I mentioned earlier, it is good to have painter's tape along the side here, as well as on the rocker, just to ensure that you don't chip any paint off. Along the bumper assembly here isn't really much of a big deal, because you more so pull it straight up once you just got it just a touch away from the headlights, so you don't have to worry about any damage here. And also, when you are removing it, it does help if you do have the door open to some extent here, because it does provide, I would say, roughly about 1 inch of space in there, so you don't have to worry about any scrubbing of the door as well. And it gives you a little more room when you are moving up if it does hang up on anything. It shouldn't, but just in case it does, if something has been altered previously to when you've owned the vehicle, or if it's ever been an accident or anything like that, just something to keep in mind. Now this concludes the rest of my tutorial video. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to post them below. Also, please subscribe to my channel and like my video. Thank you for watching.